G'day and welcome to the Flyfisher podcast. Since 1967, we've been spreading the bug of fly fishing. Join us as we celebrate the fun of fly fishing and chat with characters that enjoy it as much as we do. Whether you're just starting out or have some experience, we hope our ego-free commentary helps demystify fly fishing and inspires you to visit new places and try new techniques. Thanks for listening, and just wanted to talk a little bit maybe at the start about who we are, what we do. The Flyfisher, obviously based in South Melbourne. We moved to a much bigger, better space here from the CBD where we'd been since 1967. But this is our first podcast, so thanks for tuning in. And we'll just want to go around and just talk about each other's fly fishing experiences and who we are, what makes us tick in fly fishing. Ross has been probably one of our longer serving staff members, and he heralds from the UK but has lived in Australia for a number of years now and is one of those outdoorsy types that has become full fly fishing addict. So Roscoe, maybe tell us a bit about the fishing that you did in the UK before you come over.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So obviously born and bred in the UK, lived there for 21 years. Lots and lots of fishing over there. The fishing's actually pretty good. Lots of freshwater fishing, especially carp. So I guess I started off coarse fishing, so redfin or English perch, rudd, roach, tench, bream, stuff like that. And then progressed on to carp. Carp fishing, I guess, was the mecca over there. It was all about carp and the technology in carp fishing, all the latest gear, going to venues. You'd leave work on a Friday night, set up a camp, fish all through the night, all Saturday, all Sunday, run home to get a shower Sunday night, quick go to bed, and then up for work on Monday.
Do carp smell as bad in the UK as they do in Australia?
I think all fish smell equally as bad.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, incorrect.
Trout stink though, hey? Like trout,
Yeah,
trout net.
Maybe it's just the fish that you hang around.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I never really realised how much they stink, but yeah, I think your gear definitely does stink. Your nets do stink, but no, I didn't. Yeah, couldn't really explain it, but it is obviously the mecca of fishing over there. A little bit of pike, a little bit of zander fishing as well, and then came here when I was 21 and really just dedicated everything to fly fishing since then. And
was it the fishing opportunities in Australia that lured you here, or was it something else?
Well, it's work originally, I guess. Came here for work, and I didn't probably know all of the outdoorsy fishing and hunting.
Our girls
stuff.
are prettier though, aren't they? Just say it.
For sure. I have to say that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's facts. True facts. No, I really enjoy the fishing here. Just how much is free and open access to water. How wild it is. There's nothing like the high country in the UK where there's a wild waterway you can just rock up to and fish. It just does not exist anywhere I fished in Europe. So no, that's good fun. And then I've done lots of trout fishing and lots of saltwater fishing on the fly as well here since I've been here.
That's good, mate. And you've only scratched the surface of it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Only scratched the surface. Still lots more to do. I know that we've got a trip up to Albany Island that I'm looking forward to. And
we look after our employees here at the Flyfisher.
Some of them, yeah.
A deathly silence in the room.
We're waiting.
Next on the list, we'll go over to Max. So Max is our most senior member of staff, and he loves it when we refer to him as being the most senior member. He's what are you, 39?
39 going on 38.
Yeah. But he is the man that brings a bit of class to our team here at the Flyfisher. And you'll no doubt have seen images of Max on the cover of almost every fly fishing publication in the country. He is that photogenic. He's a beautiful man. But that aside, he can also fish unbelievably well and knows our local northeast fishing probably better than most. So, Max, tell us a bit about your fishing, maybe where it all started for you and now where you are now and what really, floats your boat.
Sure. Thank you, Andrew. Welcome, everybody. So my fly fishing experience has started as a kid in Rome. Ironically, fishing with a bamboo pole and a float.
Is that the Tiber River?
In the Tiber River.
Yeah.
That's right.
Tiber.
They're probably very good.
Pronunciation's a little off, but we'll brush over that.
My first recollections, and I would stand there for hours and hours and hours and hours looking at a little float, hoping that a fish would take it. Came to Australia in 1969, and I fished all my life. And one day, probably about 35 years ago, a friend of mine put a fly rod in my hand, and I never looked back. Totally fell in love with streams and lakes and trout and everything to do with fly fishing. These days, I'm passionate about the northeast of Victoria. I'm passionate about our rivers. I'm passionate about our climates. I'm passionate about conditions. Passionate about the condition of the fish. Also passionate about sharing my knowledge with other people. Since working here at the Flyfisher, it's been a great experience just interacting with other fly fishers and people that are very, very experienced, or people that are just starting out and need to know, all the basics and all the gear and the techniques. I enjoy writing, as Andrew has mentioned. I have had my photo on a few magazine covers.
It may have something to do with you fishing with the bloke that's writing more articles than anyone in Philip Weigel, maybe.
Absolutely. So being good friends with Philip.
Good friends or private chef?
Good friends, and I think they go together.
They do, don't they?
I think one is conditional upon the other.
And it helps that you have a vehicle.
It does, absolutely. So when Philip goes fly fishing, it's his career. So we obviously enjoy, great fishing. I enjoy the experience of watching him fish and his skills, but also it's his job. So then opportunities arise where photos have to be taken and reports and stories have to be recounted. Yeah. So I wish everybody the opportunity and of experiencing fly fishing. It's an activity which basically it is fishing, but to me it's also a sport. It's stalking, it's hunting, but above all, it's sharing your experiences with great people around you, and really experiencing some of the most beautiful places in the world, and that's in the outback, in the bush, on rivers, on lakes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all, we can't understand why more people don't do it. I mean, we get so much out of it every day that we get to do it, and spreading that joy of fly fishing, I think, is something that all of us here, certainly everyone sitting at the table here, has a real passion for. So that's why we're here, and that's why we're doing this podcast and hopefully spreading some fly fishing love. But now another staff member of ours over to Forbes Lindemann. So Lindemann by name, Forbes by nature.
Thanks for that, Andrew. So as Andrew said, my name is Forbes. I've been working here at the Flyfisher for 4 months, something along those lines. I think I really started cutting my teeth with fishing. I'm originally from a town called Deneliquin in New South Wales that Andrew
great town.
Great.
Do it in Deni.
Do it in Deni. Andrew's quite familiar with being from there as well. But yeah, I cut my teeth sort of on the Murray cod scene there, and getting into the humble mud marlin as well, since they're so numerous. And sort of cut my teeth at a young age doing that. And then probably didn't really touch it for a lot of high school. Didn't do a lot of fishing. That was all just conventional spin, really. And then my brother moved up to the Northern Territory. He was living in Darwin, and I went and spent a couple of weeks with him and fished blue water for the first time ever. And from that moment onwards, just my obsession with fishing sort of really just, I was completely into it from that point onwards. That was all spin gear, and that was the way it was for quite a number of years until I...
Do you think it takes being exposed to really good fishing like that, good fast fishing, to develop that addiction? Because I know I was in the same boat as you, growing up in a small town like Deniliquin on the Edward River. Not an easy fishery, and it's a fishery that's gotten better and better, but certainly when I was a kid, and I've got a few years on Forbes, but not many, let's be honest.
You'd like to think.
But the fishing was rubbish, it was pretty much just carp, and the amount of cod that I caught, at fishing every second day, you could count them on one hand. But that's the tide's turned on that, and you're probably catching almost as many cod as
it's definitely a fishery
carp.
that's improved. But I think the point that you're making there is very true. That it did, at least for me, it took that exposure to serious fishing where you went out and you had a good chance, and we got some good fish while I was there to do that fishing and to go. You know, for me, it's not just about the quality of the fish, but the absolute diversity of the species and things that we're catching. I went, oh my God, you know, there's something out there other than European carp and Murray cod and the occasional yellow belly and silver perch. You know, for me, that blew my mind, and so I just started spending all of my spare time fishing on spin gear. I was sent out to Gippsland to do a year for uni, and when I was out there, I sort of was scratching my head. You know, I'd moved to Melbourne from Deni at one point to start uni, and was fishing around Port Phillip Bay. Went out to Gippsland and was scratching my head, going, you know, where am I going to fish? You know, what's around and what's going on? And you start Googling these things, and everyone's answer is trout. You know, there are trout in Gippsland, and you know, you're not far from all of those beautiful waterways. And I started looking into that, and at first it was a spin thing again, but then my brother actually gave me a nudge and said, have you ever thought about fly fishing? And I said, well, no, wouldn't have any idea what it is. And sort of looked it up and saw that you could tie your own flies, and like watched a few videos and things like that, and suddenly went, oh shit, you know, I reckon I'm probably going to splash some cash and try and get into this. And from the first moment, you know, I was even just out having practice sessions casting a fly rod. I just loved it. Yeah, absolutely loved it. And now I you know, rarely do I pick up a spin rod. I'm a big fly guy.
So how old are you, Forbes?
I'm 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was a bit of a gap there where fly fishing was it didn't have a profile at all. I'm thinking that period between Rex Hunt's fishing adventures in a river somewhere and to where we are today. And so, yeah, for you not having been exposed to fly fishing and it taking something like your brother suggesting it, I think that's a pretty normal thing for a 25-year-old. Because I remember when I was, you know, a kid, it was still a big feature on Rex Hunt's fishing adventures. Like it was in every sort of second segment.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just don't. Yeah.
Not as much exposure to it, really.
It's growing.
It definitely is, and things like social media, and you know, as I said, I was hopping on YouTube and watching videos, things like that. You can dig into it, but you know, these things being as targeted as they are, you're not necessarily just going to stumble across it. You know, not necessarily anyway. Yeah. So for me, it sort of just took a bit of a suggestion and a bit of a look, and then I went, oh God, you know, like that does look like good fun, and got out there and started doing it. So yeah, I've been fly fishing.
For the record, when Forbes started, we thought he, you know, knew nothing about fly fishing, but he's quickly surprised us that he actually does know a bit and can catch fish. So a pleasant surprise, if you will.
Still pretty green.
Yeah.
Still pretty green.
But another bloke who works for us who probably catches half as many fish as he tells us about is our co-host, actually, Peter.
Yeah.
Peter hasn't been with us for too long yet. We found him as a retail dynamo at JB Hi-Fi and lured him over to the Flyfisher. But he's been a great addition to the team, and he is the main instigator behind this podcast. So Peter, welcome.
Thanks, Andrew.
Mate, tell us a bit about your fishing and where it all started for you.
Yeah, so I started fishing with Dad pretty much as soon as I was born, I guess. Conventional saltwater fly fishing out in a boat on Port Phillip Bay for those bread and butter sort of species. Never really got exposed to fly fishing as such when I was younger, but once I turned 18 and got my license, it's pretty much every second day I was out fishing up around Marysville and cutting my teeth up there and learning how to fly fish and teaching myself.
So it was getting into trout fishing that kind of then spawned that next step in fly fishing.
Yeah, that's right. Spinning for trout.
Yeah.
Sort of whenever I could convince mum and dad to take me before I had my license, and then as soon as you get that freedom with your license, the world's your oyster. And
it is.
I chose fly fishing to sort of kick it off for me.
Yeah. No, a license to drink and a license to fish is a good thing when you turn 18, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And how well they go together.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, they actually changed that law in the UK, so you could actually drive at 17 and then drink at 18, so that you weren't doing both at the same time.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad idea, is it?
Learn one before the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying on our thing, we've got last trip you went on. So maybe we go around and we talk about the last trip we did.
Forbes, been over to Tassie.
That's
lately.
enough about you, Peter.
Yeah.
We've heard enough about your introduction.
You've been blasted out of water.
What was your last trip, Peter?
My last trip, I went to a place called Saltwater Creek in New South Wales, which is about half an hour before Eden. It's quite a nice spot. You've got 2 estuaries at each end of a small bay, and they're just stacked up with schools of salmon, and then you've got salmon and tailor in the surf and brim and whatnot.
Yeah, wow.
It was sort of my first introduction to saltwater fly fishing, which I found a bit hard, waving a big 8-weight rod around compared to a tiny little 4-weight in a trout stream, but it's definitely a good place to learn and a good place to catch some fish relatively easily.
And you got onto some fish, didn't you?
Yeah, like the amount of small salmon that just stack up in those estuaries, especially once they're freshly opened, it's crazy. Like, and
awesome
you just see the schools cruising, and it's sight fishing and exciting. Not big fish by any means, and not an amazing fight, but you're certainly catching fish and learning how saltwater systems work compared to, pool run in a river.
Yeah.
It's, big different how tides affect things and things like that.
Not that it's new, because people had been doing it for a long time, Max being one, but the saltwater fly fishing opportunities in the southeast of Australia, they're numerous. All those little inlets and bays have got really good fly fishing opportunities. And Max, you've been doing those trips for years, haven't you?
Yeah, look, I have, and I think it's a little bit sort of underestimated or undervalued. The type of fishing that's available along the west coast and also through Gippsland, is pretty good. And I think it's just getting your head around that those opportunities are there, and the techniques and the gear. But I've had many, many wonderful trips, catching big salmon, big bream, chasing estuary perch, seeing big pods of ocean mullet move up the systems, being smashed by God knows what in some of the estuaries, probably Mulloway. It's actually become one of my favourite forms of fly fishing. I mean, I absolutely adore trout fishing, and nothing will ever replace it, but I look forward, I prefer fishing these estuaries during the winter months. I really look forward to winter, the onset of winter. I mean, for me, there are no fly fishing seasons. It's a 12-month proposition.
And I think it's worth pointing out that these fish and these fisheries are shallow water fisheries, and with a floating line, that's pretty much all you need to do it. And so, a lot of these species eat a fly as well as they do a lure or soft plastic.
Sometimes better.
Yeah, look,
as well.
Many times we'll be fishing the shores of various estuaries, and there'll be the odd stationed bait fisher there, and I can say that they're often looking over their shoulders, thinking, "What are these guys doing?" and two, "Why are they catching so many fish?" Something else that's quite interesting. These are the type of flies we use and the techniques. The chaps sitting on the banks, and God bless them for enjoying the environment as well, but they tend to catch quite a few smaller fish. When you're targeting species like bream with a fly, I can say in the last 10 years, I can't think of more than 2 undersized bream that we've caught.
Wow.
So that there is quality, a correlation between size of fly, the movements, and understanding what's happening under the water and the size of fish. And as Andrew mentioned, we're fishing shallow water, so it is almost like flats fishing, and then understanding the tidal movements and how the fish react to water moving in, moving out, and also moving over or into the flats. Yeah. Very exciting. I would highly recommend it for everybody to try.
That's right. Much like most fly fishing disciplines, you're sort of actively searching for fish and getting a lot more in tune with the fishery than you would be bait fishing. Yeah, sitting on the side of a river or on the side of an estuary.
And sort of, I liked what you were saying about understanding what is going on underneath the water and being able to read that water and the way that fish respond to the way that the water is moving and where it is.
And that may be a side effect of trout fishing before getting into that inshore salt water.
And could go, vice versa, really. You can take things either way for wherever you begin, really.
Yep. Yeah. What about you, Roscoe? Where was your last fishing trip, mate?
I did a local thing with me old man. My parents are over from the UK. Haven't seen them in a while, and we just took your boat out off of Mornington.
The Flyfisher boat. Yeah. It's a tax deduction, let's be honest.
The shop boat. The shop boat out off of Mornington, and got my dad onto some pinkies and some flathead, which was good. Some species that he'd never caught before.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, not really your shallow water fly fishing, but kind of more your 6 to 8 meters and using sinking lines to get flies down. But he ended up getting most of his on bait, and I got one on a fly. So yeah, look, I think the bait definitely outfished the fly on that day, but we certainly had a good time, and it's always good to get those fish on fly and they pull like stink.
And this deeper water, fishing out of a boat in salt water down south here, that's another dimension to saltwater fly fishing.
It's a
that we have
whole
on
different
offer,
ball
isn't
game.
It is, yeah.
But it's amazing how Port Phillip Bay has developed as a fly fishery, though.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Ross is a big one.
Yeah,
that
for
loves
sure.
his fly fishing in the bay.
Yeah, and I might be fishing in 8 meters of water, but the fish might be on the surface. You might get
That's
a school
right.
of salmon and some birds working them, and you're still fishing your sinking line, but as soon as it hits the water, you're stripping it.
Yeah.
And
And
you're
it's
getting-
not a sinking line anymore, is it, if you're moving it?
Well, yeah,
fast
that's
enough.
it. So
Yeah.
no, we've
That's really been something that COVID brought on for you, hasn't it?
It
The
has. I don't-
lockdowns and, the maximum distance you can travel from home, it's really pushed you into that.
I don't think I'd fished the bay ever. Fly fished it and probably over 12 months ago, so it's all been in the last 12 months. And no, we've had some fun. We made a little teaser rig up one day and chucked it off the back of the boat. We used the electric and over winter on a dead calm day, and managed to tease up a load of salmon school and catching them on fly with another guy that lives around the corner from me. We had a ball of the time. Caught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of salmon over lockdown, and if it was, I probably like all of us, I couldn't really do more than a few days without fishing. So yeah, that scratched that itch.
It's amazing what COVID brought on in terms of fishing options close to home.
Oh, that's it.
Amazing.
Like I discovered 90 centimetre carp in a creek, 2 minutes down the road on my bike.
Oh, the amount of carp flies that went through the door here was incredible, wasn't it? I think we'd sold out quite a few times and had to buy
it was.
different carp flies.
Yeah. No, there's always something new to catch on fly, and then as long as there's a puddle close to home with fish in it, we'll fish in it.
That's right.
That's it.
Doesn't matter what it is, as long as they'll eat a fly.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you just come back from Tassie, Forbes.
Yeah.
Tassie.
So
Exotic, overseas.
Exotic. Yeah. My first time to Tassie, it was pretty bloody exotic.
You got to go on a boat, on a ship.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
Yeah.
The spirit of Tasmania. That was unreal.
Unreal.
I had a great time. We went over, as you may have gathered from listening, I've just come back from Tasmania. I did 3 weeks over there.
Had a good time?
Fantastic time. Could not recommend it enough. Tasmania, I will be back. As long as that place stays wild, I will be going back. It was bloody awesome.
And it will stay wild. Those Tasmanians will make sure of that.
Right. So the first week I went over with my housemates. So the first week we went down the east coast. I foolishly didn't take my 9-weight with me because I saw Australian salmon just cruising through the shores and out on those sand flats and things wherever we were camping. It just seemed everything.
Mistake.
Oh, big mistake. Everything was just so fishy. And then got down to Hobart, went up. We did the overland. So that was the second week.
Is there much fishing along the overland?
Look, I'm not going to say no. I just didn't do an awful lot. I know that you go there and you see you've got your native galaxid populations and things like that, which
They fight well.
were really good.
Yeah.
The monsters.
All
Game
3
fish.
centimetres.
The monsters.
Yeah.
I suspect there are trout at the beginning of the overland and there are trout at the end of the overland in Lake St. Clair.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked at the waterways. I'm not 100% sure, but you got to assume.
I mean,
they move. They're like rats,
running water in Tassie.
That-
They're probably going to have trout. In it,
That's
let's
it.
be
And
honest.
so I don't know. I did see fish on the last day. We pulled up at Narcissus Hut. That's the last day of the overland, and
Aptly named.
sort of at the at the top.
You sure it was your first trip to Tasmania?
At the top of Lake St. Clair, and I just saw trout all rising there. I actually took a fly rod with me and got a couple of casts in before the ferry captain sort of had us moving. But then the last week I went and did a sort of a solo thing, just camping and stopping in at whichever river was nearby. Pretty much looking it up in that Trout Waters of Tasmania by Greg French.
The Bible.
The Bible.
Gee, that'd almost be our product of the week.
That's the product.
That
of the
is
week.
the product of the week.
Actually, that's the bloody product of the week.
$59.95. Available online and in store.
Can you really put a bloody price on it?
You can't, can you?
No.
It's like having a guide with you the whole time. It's an
Genuinely.
unbelievable resource.
The information, the down to the size of the fish that you'd be catching.
Yeah.
Down to the size
That's
of the fish
crazy.
that you'd be catching.
Yeah.
How, like what they'd be taking
Yeah.
and things like that. Amazing. Anyway, that's beside the point. Pretty much was pulling up and just sort of, if I saw a river, I was sort of setting up a tent nearby and then hopping in and washing myself first, but then
lovely.
wading along and trying to catch
Looting
a
the
big
river.
Those poor trout.
Yeah, I can't imagine the kind of, oils coming off you after a week on the overland.
Yeah, no, it was good.
Toxic.
You get used to your own company for sure.
That's good, mate. And so, rivers, lakes, where do you fish? What do you do?
So I started off on the rivers, sort of the meander is where I began my trip. I went out with Martin Droz, who's a fly fishing
Fly fishing royalty.
Fly fishing royalty. That's a good way of putting it.
Gold
went out
medalist.
with him. He's gold medalist. Won the world championship. He's taken both all bronze, silver, and gold. So he's unreal. Really.
Did you get to see his medals? I'd love to see his medals.
Wouldn't
They're
it
probably
be-
not even
imagine
real
if
gold, are they? Like, it's fly fishing we're talking about. This isn't
Imagine if he
the
rocked
Olympics.
up. Imagine if he rocked up wearing
Yeah.
them.
The tungsten.
So I went out with him. That was fantastic. Mostly Euro nymphing, which is something I hadn't really done before, and just really interesting. Then went from there up, spent a day with Jim Allen, who is actually the founder of the Flyfisher.
He certainly is.
Yeah,
Also
and,
fly fishing royalty.
A feather duster now, but he's certainly an integral part of our team, and no doubt we'll be putting him on the airwaves at some point. So we look forward to that.
Yeah, too right. And he was fantastic. That was he's just having great fun there. So it was really nice to go and spend time with him and to go out and fish the lakes. So yeah, always sort of had him giving me a nudge and pointing me in a good direction, which was fantastic.
And some good banter on the boat, no doubt.
Oh, too
Lunchtime beers and ice creams as you make your way to the lake.
Bloody Marys in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
the works. Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Really good. Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Very good.
No, so I had a very, very good trip.
And Max, when was your last trip?
Right. Now, my last trip was about 3 weeks ago in the northeast of Victoria. And we fished some absolutely beautiful rivers in excellent condition, full of fish. So the fishing has been pretty exceptional this season. Something to do with climate, water, and coolish conditions. I fished up there with my daughter, who's taken up fly fishing the last couple of years and become very, very, very good at it very, very quickly, which is a concern for me.
Learn from the best, obviously.
Sorry?
Learn from the best, obviously.
Oh, I don't know about that, but she's learned pretty quickly. She's always been a fast learner. And her boyfriend, Kyle, as well. They're both ambassadors here at the Flyfisher and a good mate. We camped in a beautiful spot and basically experienced some terrific fishing. Trout size was very, very good, and there were a few bust-offs as well. So there were a few...
More learning to do.
More learning to do, that's right.
The ones that got away.
Yeah.
The ones that got away. There's always a story, but...
Lesson 1, don't fish 6X tippet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so we fished into the forest and did great. We also fished along the Bitumen Road, and the fishing was great. There were a few hoppers around, but the trout was smashing big dry flies, whether hoppers or big stimulators. And we always try and trail a nymph underneath the drive. It's always good to have 2 shots at the possibilities. And some of the good fish actually also came to hand via the nymph. But it was absolutely spectacular up there. 3 weeks is far too long for me to be off the water, so a new trip is being planned as we speak.
Yeah, you look like you're having withdrawals, Max. Scratching your arms like that.
That's actually right.
I know the feeling all too well.
What about you, Andrew? Your last trip?
I don't fish anymore, actually.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you got a business to run.
Yeah, business to run. Staff to crack the whip over. But no, it's not so much where I've been fishing, but what I have to look forward to. So it'll be Tassie for me. Get back over and visit my shack that's in need of repair, and no doubt get a lot of fishing in. But got that on the radar. Yukon Bean as well. In fact, I was looking at the map the other day, and I think you can do a pretty easy detour Bem River and then Bem River up to Lake Yukon Bean. So it'd be great to combine a bit of saltwater, brim fishing with a trip to Yukon Bean, particularly now as it's fishing so well. For those that don't know, Yukon Bean has just had, one of the best seasons in recent memory, or probably, any memory, I would say. But certainly you want to make hay while the sun shines, and that fishing is so good up there. So
yeah, it sounds like an awesome trip.
Should be good. So you guys don't mind running the shop while I'm away? All good?
No, it's all good.
I need you to work Saturdays and Sundays as well, like I do. That's
We
all.
don't even open on Sundays.
When the cat's away.
Yeah. But there's beer in the fridge, so it's all okay.
Yeah.
Help yourself.
It's a heavy ask. It's a heavy ask.
Yeah. But no, look, thanks guys for tuning in. Really nice to introduce you to us here at the Flyfisher and what we do, why we do it, and really looking forward to the next episode. We're going to have a lot of special guests along the way, and people that we hope can offer a bit of insight into their local fisheries, the fishing they do, their lives in fly fishing, and we look forward to having you along on the ride.
Yeah, fantastic. Catch ya.